Welcome back to yet again another episode of the Upgrade My Rituals podcast. My name is Kevin McKellar, the host, and this is the show for stressed out overachievers who are looking to design their ideal day. Instead of trying to create a million different new positive habits in their life, we're going to take a look at how to create this somewhat perfect ideal day and try our best to strive for it. And this episode is really cool. I'm very excited because I have a guest with me, and his name is Keith Senzer. And Keith Senzer is a youth leadership empowerment coach, and he is the president also of the Sofia Valsamos Foundation. And the reason I brought him on here there's quite a few other things that he's involved in and doing, and that I'm going to let him jump in and chat in a minute. But the reason I brought him on as a guest is because this month, we're going to be focusing a lot around children and how we are able to instill some of these concepts of personal growth, personal productivity, leadership, and empowerment to kids, because we as adults have a fully formed brain. Kids do not. So Keith, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm going to give you a few seconds, kind of introduce yourself and kind of riff on who you are and what you do.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So I run a company called Power Shift Coaching. I work one-on-one with teens that are looking to just, improve their emotional intelligence, right? Or parents who feel like their kids need a little more support with, when you use the word life skills, a lot of people think life skills is like, how to cook, how to clean, but life skills are how to cope, right? How to cope with anxiety and stress and things like that. So I do a lot of that. I do workshops. I do mastermind groups with youth. So I do executive functioning training, with college and high school kids, some middle school who are struggling with study habits, how to get organized, how to how to build a ritual in, right, so they can keep consistency in their day and have success with their education. And then the other thing I do is I run a non-for-profit, as you'd say, called the Sofia Valsamos Foundation. And our mission is to empower young people to take a stand against bullying, find support around challenges, and embrace each other's differences. I've been with the foundation for about 3 years as a board member, but I just took over in September as president. And, our goal really is to spread awareness, bring our programming, right now we're in Long Island. We love to spread this across the country. And it's really about, improving the mental health of teens across the country. And really my true purpose, me personally, is I'm doing this because, as we can all see, right? We're pretty divided right now, this country. It's really bad. We need our youth to fix that. Like, if we can teach them to be more kind, more tolerant, more accepting, more understanding, right? It's okay to have differing views. Like, you need to accept people but just to be able to find a way to collaborate and kind of heal our world, because that's really what we need right now. So I feel like if we can't teach this generation to do it, my generation's already screwed it up, so we need to focus on the next one. Because the truth is, there's that cliche, right? The children are our future, right? But they really are. Right. And if we don't raise them the right way and we don't give them the skills they need to go into that future, we're going to still continue to have the same problems we have in this country, in this world. So that's my deeper purpose of what I do.
So I think that's really commendable. I think what you just said, I think is, and it's funny, I didn't even really think about the fact that where we are politically, emotionally, as a society, I didn't even think, I'm not even there yet. To tackle that, and you're doing that, and you're tackling that mission through working with kids. I think that's such a huge, not even undertaking, but just a huge, North Star. I think that's really something special. And I think working, as you mentioned, working with kids being the next generation is something that is very, you have to be humble, because your line of work, you're teaching and hopefully getting to 1% of those kids you work with, or 1% of that group you touch, because that's going to be the 99% that makes the difference, because you're not going to be able to reach everybody, I'm assuming. But with that being said, before I ramble anymore, I just kind of want to get your, for how long have you been doing this, Keith?
So I've been coaching now since 2014.
Okay.
But this is something I like. You know how, like, again, one of the lessons I could teach teens is do what you want to do from day one, right? Like, I had ADHD as a kid. I struggled really bad in school, socially, the whole 9 yards. But I was a nice person. My parents are like, you're really good with people, and they're like, go into the hotel
Yeah.
business. I actually wanted to be a child psychologist, and I never followed through on it
Oh,
because it's more school. School's hard for you. I
sure.
graduated high school with like a 71 average. I ended up graduating college with like a 3.99, and I went to the hotel business, and then I went to the catering business, right? And that was like, and
Right.
then, you know, my mid 40s, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this. This is not resonating. It's not what I want to do. Like, yeah,
Right.
I'm making a lot of money. I'm successful. It's great, but it wasn't really there for me. And then my son has ADHD. My daughter has a generalized anxiety disorder. So just raising them and working with them, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want to do. I want to help because my kids, not, I mean, they're my kids, right? But my kids with all their struggle, like, they're awesome. Like, they've managed them.
Yeah.
They figured out how to deal with it, and like they found their way, right? And I'm like, I can do
Awesome.
that for other kids, right? And it's hard being a parent, right? Especially growing up on Long Island, where I am, right? I believe you're here too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's so competitive, and there's so much pressure that these kids put on themselves. So for me, you know, that's really that's why I do this now. And like, once I started doing this, I'm like, okay, this is like, I know I found my purpose. This is what I should be doing, and
So that's so cool. Well, with your history of working with kids and teens, like, I'm curious, what have you found, like, being if you had to pick one big challenge working with them, like, what's the big thing that you would, if you can wave a magic wand tomorrow and this wouldn't be a challenge anymore, what would it be if you had to pick one?
well, we leaving COVID out because that's like a whole nother,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
No, that's
created like a whole nother, that's a whole thing right there. But
yeah,
honestly, I probably have to say just, self acceptance, right? If I could wave a wand and you could just be like, you know what, I'm cool with who I am at the
yeah.
core, that would be it. I mean, because that's really where most of the stress and the anxiety and all the struggles that teens go through stem from, And the other place would be communication with their parents.
Yeah. Okay. So now that's really interesting that you mentioned that. So one other question I kind of wanted to dig in, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit here, is because it's a perfect segue. Do you work with parents of teens at all, or?
So I don't like. I've had some parents who have asked me to. I've done some trainings, like specialty trainings. I've
Sure.
collaborated with some therapists, and we've done some parent training. I'm
Okay.
definitely not. That's not what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
However,
Right.
a lot of the kids that I work with, I consult with the parents too. So I'll
Gotcha.
let them know, hey, I'm working with your child on this. Like, this is something that's important to them. They're going to come talk to you about this. Like, I need you to really hear them and listen, and leave your biases out, and just, like, talk to them, not at them, and try to understand where they're coming from. So I will have those types of conversations with parents for sure.
You answered my next question. What are the things that you're often find yourself discussing with parents? Because I feel like, I mean, I know there's a lot of science from the first 7 years of life, but that there is, I mean, almost their whole world is their parents and either their implanting of their ideas and their philosophies or not. But it's almost impossible not to have some type of effect on your kids because that's all they know. But I'm curious as to see, how much of not the problems, but how much of the work that you do with kids actually, is stemmed from either beliefs that they've garnered from their parents or philosophies that they've gotten from their parents. Do you find that it's more so that, or is there just so many different cases where it's because we moved high schools and now we moved and now this new high school, everybody is, this is a new setting for me, or I have this group of friends who've been bullying me, because I know we mentioned that one of your large missions is to work with and put a halt to bullying as best you can. Do you like where is it that you find where are you seeing the not say problems, but the problems, from lack of a better word, stem from, or is it just all different
I
cases?
I definitely think it depends on the kid and the family
Yeah.
dynamic, right? For sure. But I definitely think the biggest, in my opinion, and again, right? I feel like I always say this: we live in a bubble here on Long Island, right? Like it's very different. Like it's the truth, right? But here, and I'm sure it's like this. I hate to, it's not even. It's places where people have a little better off financially, right? You know, there's this bubble we create, and it's we sometimes like biggest struggle with kids is they're not allowed to fail, right? Like they feel they're not allowed to fail, and sometimes not all parents, but a lot of parents put a lot of pressure on them. I feel like most of the pressure these kids have growing up in these communities is self-imposed by society and societal norms that the college admissions process and things like that put on them, or athletics,
Yeah.
right? But the truth is, I feel like a lot of parents struggle, right? Watching it's hard to watch your kid fail, right? Like you love your kid, you want to do everything you can to protect your kid, but the truth is, the best way for them to grow and to learn is for them to fail, and for you to be there and say, "Hey, I love you. It's good. Like, you know what? No big deal. You'll do better next time," right? As opposed to snow plowing everything out of the way or being a helicopter parent and like try. Because the truth is, my biggest client base many times is college freshmen who have gone off to college for the first time. All of a sudden, they've got their independence and they don't know what to do, and they're lost, and they've never struggled with a class, or they've never struggled with this or that, and now they are, and they're completely just devastated, or they go into some low level depression because they're like I because they've never had an experience like that. It's like you need to fail. You need to fail. I always say you have to try to fail to succeed. And as parents, we have to let our kids fail.
So, what is the process when a student does fail at something? What is the conversation that you usually have with them? Is there a specific process that you walk them through?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is a question, right? And the first question I'll always ask is, "What'd you learn? Like, what did you learn from this experience?" Okay, even if it's like you failed your chemistry test. Okay, what did you learn? I probably should have studied more. Okay, well, how much did you study for it? Like 2 hours a night before. I'm like, what should you have done? I probably should have studied a half hour a night for like a week. I'm like, well, so there you go. Guess what? What are you going to do next time you have a chemistry test? I'm going to stay for a half hour a night for a week. Great. Guess what? Glad you failed. You'll probably do great next time. Move on. That's it. It's over. What's like? It's really,
Yeah.
you got to ask them questions. That's how you get them, because they have to. That's the other thing as a parent, teaching your kids to problem solve. Like, don't solve all the answers. Listen, there are certain questions that are asked, they need an answer. But many times, like, oh, what do you think of this? Well, what do you think of it? What do you think? Well, I'm asking you, and I'm going to give you my opinion. But before I give you my opinion, I'm just curious what you think of, because I bet you know what to do. You're just coming to me because you're afraid you're going to pick the wrong answer. Tell me what you're going to do. I'm just curious, right? Many times it's like, you know what, you're right. That's what I should do. Yeah, see, you didn't need me. Like, it's just independent thinkers. That's the way to teach them how to be independent thinkers and problem solvers.
Did you ever read The Coaching Habit by what's his name?
I don't think I did.
Michael Bungay. It's actually a book that's directed towards managers of teams in the corporate world, but it's for any coach, and it's a great. I think it would be a great thing for parents, because it talks about the whole book is revolved around the 7 questions that make a great coach. It's like, God, it's been a while since I read it. It was like, what is your actual problem here? And what else? That's the whole question. And what else? Because we're going deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So there, there's a few other questions, but it's I think that would be a great book for parents, because again, that trains us to not just try to fix the problem. And I'm already getting ready with my little 11-month-old, thinking through like, okay, one day she's going to say something.
By the way, I love parents. Like, this is not a knock on parents. I'm a parent.
No.
I've done it. I've done things where I'm like afterwards, like, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like,
because it's human nature.
We love our kids. Like, we want to do everything and anything to nurture and protect them. And a lot of it's our own anxiety as a parent. Like, where, like watching your kid walk into a social situation where you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good, right? But like,
yep,
they got to learn. Like, they've got to learn. If we keep bailing them out, they get older, and then when that happens, they really don't know how to deal with it. It's hard. It's hard. Being a parent, hardest job in the world.
I agree. Well, being a great parent, right, right.
True.
I completely agree, and I'm learning.
Yeah.
The word patience is a new
Yes.
very forefront in my vocabulary. I want to go back to something you said, kind of because this is a great. We're really there's a lot of organic transitions of where we're going in this conversation that I see. You talked about obviously we talked about failure. We talked about the questions you asked the student. What happens if they fail? Okay, da, 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 da. Great. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you've coached a student multiple times and they keep failing at the same situation? And in particular, the example you gave is like the failing of the test. So I failed the science test because I didn't study. Okay, well, next time, what are you going to, what do you think you should study? 2 hours a night. Okay. I only study for 20 minutes once a week. Okay, but I'll do it 2 hours. And then the next time they fail their next 3 science tests. Have you ever in a position where you've coached the similar problem, but they keep failing?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, I've definitely had those students. Like I said, I do a lot of work. I do a lot of freelance work for a company called Order Out of Chaos. They're an executive
Okay.
functioning company, so I have a lot of clients I see through them. And I definitely have those students that it's leading the horse to water, right? I'm giving you the strategies. I'm telling you what you need to do, and they just don't want to do it. And when I get to that point, I change the conversation and I go from executive functioning coach, like you said, going deeper. Okay, what's really going on? Like, what's really going on here? Because you're avoiding it. So you're afraid of something. What are you afraid of? Where's that fear coming from? Do you not want to go to college? Like maybe you don't want to go and you just don't want to tell your parents. Like what's really going on? Because if you're not taking any of this and applying it, knowing that it's going to help you, you're self-sabotaging. And why are you self-sabotaging? That's definitely one direction. And then, quite honestly, the other direction is there are just kids like myself, right, that had ADHD or they have a learning disability or they're dyslexic or dysgraphia, right? Like, it's hard for them. It's just,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's just they can't get motivated. They can't. And, like, that's why I graduated high school with a 71. Like, I skated by, and
Same.
that's the other thing. Some kids, right, like, there's a difference between, like, when I get that kid that I know is really doing their best and they're like, I can't give anymore. Like, I'm trying. I know what you want me to do, but, like, I just can't do it, right? They would probably really can't do it. And, we have to learn to be
Right.
like, I'm okay with that. Like, what are your strengths? Let's work towards their strengths. So, like, at least we can build them up to feel good about this. So when they're not doing so great over here,
Yeah.
it's okay. Because there were just some kids that are just they're not going to excel at that. You could have them study
No.
100 times. My daughter is a perfect example. She was a terrible test taker. When she was trying to get into law school, I mean, everybody, you got to get this, you got to get this. And she was struggling. And you know what? Now she's in law school. She's like going to be president of the law school. She's like a top student there. If they would have, based it on the stupid LSAT, they never would have gotten
Right.
her. You know what I mean? Like she skated into that school. And now they're like, oh my God, we're so glad you're here. Yeah, because you're basically on a standardized. That's why, like, I hope they get rid of the SATs and the ACTs. I think, the student is the whole student. Judging a student on a standardized test to me is the most archaic, stupidest thing in the world.
And that's the biggest problem is with where we are when it comes to education at a government level is that's it. The government has just way too much insight into, what we're teaching. And I understand why, but, the way we, as a former, teacher in a lifetime ago, like there is so much there's so much autonomy that is being taken away from teachers because we need to be held accountable to the administrators, to the superintendents, to the, to the state, to the government. So with another great transition here, my question I do want to see and kind of dig into with a little bit is revolve around school districts. What would, like, there is no school district that I know of that has these things that we talk about, grit, willpower, leadership, empowerment. There is nothing out there that is involved in a core curriculum. If it could be, I mean, like, what would that even look like? Is that possible? Is that something that we can see at some point, or do we have to really hit the fan before we get there? I'm just curious about your thoughts about how this fits, how this world fits into formal education.
Yeah. So, well, let me share a fact with you. Last, and this fact, probably fact check me, but last time I checked was probably a month or two ago. Okay. So there's only 3 states in the entire United States that have, they have government funding for youth, for mental health to be taught in schools. 3 states out of 52 states. There's only 3. New York happens to be one of them.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, but like that agree to federal funding, like state laws, like this has to be taught in schools. 3 states right now. I think it's us. I want to say New Jersey, and I forgot the other. It might actually be Texas. I'm not sure. I have to, but it's 3 states, right? I mean, so that right off the bat, what does that tell you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely ways. I mean, like actually, the foundation I work for, so we collaborate with another foundation called Same Here Global. And what Same Here Global does is they go in to school districts, but a lot of school districts will have a speaker, right?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, they're great because I used to do that, right? I used to go in and speak and do assemblies or whatever, and you definitely make an impact, but it doesn't always stay, unless the speaker was, unless that speaker spoke to you directly, like and I'm sure every time the speaker walks out, there's a couple of kids there that definitely walk away changed from that. And that's what it's about, right? Like when I go into a room, if I have to speak to 500 kids, if I just touch one, I feel good, right? I like to touch 500, but I know that's not going to happen. But hell, I'm going to go for it, right?
Right.
Same here. We go in and we provide. They go in, but we collaborate with them. We do some of our programming with them. They provide a culture, so they're there for the year. It's like they'll go in and they'll do training on this. And a lot of it will be during the health class, maybe, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
You have to do it during school, but maybe.
Sure.
And then some of our programs we'll do after school, like an after school program if they want to stay. So, and sometimes we'll bring in a meditation bus, and sometimes it's a suicide. Somebody's talking about suicide prevention.
Right.
Somebody's talking about both. But instead of, so like when you partner with Same Here, you're partnering with them for the year. It's not like we're going to come in one and done. We're going to come into your school, and they have an app that they use that they give to all the students that helps them deal with like their anxiety, and it's got questions of that, like really, really good stuff. So we've started collaborating with them, and that's what we need to do. Like it has to become part of the school culture. And like you said, unfortunately, it comes down to money, right? I mean, one of the biggest things we're facing right now, non-for-profits, is you got these big companies. I don't want to mention names, but these big conglomerates coming in there and going, "Oh, we could do that." Yeah, but you're sending like a social worker who's like really kind of clinical, like to talk about bullying. Like you got to get somebody like me who's going to go in there and talk with their hands and be engaging. It's not the same. But you know what? Yes, but we have research. We have the numbers. We have we can show you. Well, of course, you're backed by
guess what? Kids don't need that.
No, but for the school district to buy program, it's like, well, they've got solid numbers. Well, we've got numbers too, but you know what? We're a lot smaller than so-and-so healthcare. But
right.
Who do you want in here? Do you want people that are really passionate about it, or do you want people that are just gonna okay, there's money there. How do we get this money?
Yeah.
Like I hate to say it, but I see it all the time.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, that's why, and again, a lot of these things I'm glad that we're having these conversations because it's not, I think both you and I are not we're trying to uncover things that I see as areas that we can, I don't want to say improve, but we can fill these gaps, and I think, for instance, when kids that graduate, and especially, I mean, when I graduate now, I mean, I can't even, I'm, when I graduated, typing on the keyboard, typing wasn't even mandatory. Like, I don't know what I would do. Now, I'm taking a left field here, but I'll come back. But I don't know what I would do if I couldn't type. I, thank God, took that elective just out of my thinking, like, it might be fairly easy, and I do need to learn how to type. Thank God. You know how many kids don't know, like, they peck? And what I'm trying to say is that, like, talking about general life skills, how do we change a tire? How do we put spackle and sheetrock up? Like, how do we do these things that ultimately in your life, like, what is a mortgage? like, I was going to say, how do we balance a checkbook, but I caught myself there. Those are life skills that are not even mandatory, let alone skills that help us with our lives.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, again, it's not to say, I understand school district is not his fault. It's just the system that we're trying to fill these gaps. And I thank you. And I really mean this. I thank you so much for you and your teams that are actually doing that. That's awesome. Because I didn't realize that. So, really, thank you, because those are really important things.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But we did more. We need to be doing more. We're not in every school. And honestly, we just started collaborating with them. I mean, they've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's even them. Like, it's really hard to get into school districts. There's a lot of red tape and a lot of, or we don't need it. It's like, oh, we don't have that here. Like, just wait. It's like when there's a school shooting, right? Oh, it's never going to happen here. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, it happens. I mean, look at Parkland. Like, I have so many friends. Right. I have 4 friends whose kids were actually in that school, 4 of their kids, were in the school during that. Like, you would never think that would happen in a place like that. What makes you think it won't happen? So, like, we got to get out of that mindset of, like, we don't need it here. All these kids, more than anything, the kids that live in, like, the rougher neighborhoods, they are so resilient and tough because they have to be to survive, right? It's not fair, but it is what it is. Like, these kids that don't have those struggles and don't grow up in those rougher neighborhoods, right? Their mental health is actually, I think, sometimes worse. Not to say that mental health is going to be so great in a kid who walks to school every day and is worried about getting shot. I mean, definitely, right. But it's a different kind of. It's like trauma versus depression, right? Like a lot of those kids are dealing with trauma. These kids are dealing with, it's like, if I don't get the best grades, if I don't get into the school, my life's over. Really? Like,
right.
No. I hate to say it too, colleges. I mean, get me on my soapbox now. Like, all these best schools. Like, I always say it, don't get me wrong. University of Michigan, great school, right? Phenomenal school. UCLA, great school. I'm not going to take anything away from the quality education that they provide. But why do the kids all want to go there? Because they're great at marketing their school. It's brand. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with the fact that they are a top school and one of the best to go to.
Right.
But, like, when these kids hear the branded that way, it's like, well, I have to go there. If I don't go there, this school's not good enough. No, they're just better at telling you that they're the best. There's a lot of schools that are really, really good too. It's just like,
oh yeah.
So it's a big marketing game too.
Right. Right. Well, that's also, I think those are important conversations that are hard to have with kids when their brain, literally coming back to their frontal lobe, is not literally developed yet. So I do want to ask you, go into a little bit more, how in your work, when you are working with children, how often do you find yourself talking high level concepts versus really strategic type of plans of action? So the reason I'm asking this is because when we work with adults, there's always, of course, we're teaching high level type of situations, but a lot of times we're like, for me, I mean, when I work with students, like, I'm working with them on designing a schedule. I mean, we're looking at, okay, you want to make progress on your fitness, you want to lose the weight, you want to, get the new job, and you want to, spend time with your family. You think that's impossible, but if we actually create a couple of different routines around the day, we develop consistency, we talk about all the, actuators and all these things that work to build that momentum. That's kind of the stuff that I work with more often. Now, granted, later down in more sessions as time goes on, conversations are revolved around, okay, well, now we have this structure. Why didn't you and that's where we talked about earlier, like, we had to dig a little bit deeper. Why aren't we doing this? It's not because you had to help your kids with homework that was unexpected, that took longer. Now there's something more. That might have been the root cause, but different things. Anyway. So my question is, when you work with kids, like, how often do you find yourself really staying in the high level and, for lack of a better word, fluff, and talking about, these concepts revolved around positive thinking revolved around willpower, revolved around, empathy, versus, okay, well, we have to make, you have to be more structured in your day.
So it's interesting, right? Here's the thing, right? I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to share something because the dynamic's different. You got to remember, like when we were growing up, right? Our parents, I mean, you're younger than me, but our parents, there was no internet, right? So
Right.
as a kid, the only information I got was the newspaper, which I was forced to read for current events, right? Or what I heard, right? But like we didn't have access to all this, so
Right.
I wasn't really as educated worldly as a child, right? Like I knew what I knew, but there was so much I didn't know because I didn't have access to it. These kids have so much access to so much, right? But we still live in this philosophy, like we want our kids to act like adults, but yet we treat them like kids, right? And so for me, I always talk high level because I feel like teens are, especially now because of social. I mean, that's another whole thing, right? Don't get me started on like the negatives of social media, but there are so many positives about YouTube and social media and online news. Like these kids, they're definitely more aware of what's going on in the world and aware of things that we would not have been aware of when we were kids. So, we can't really treat them like ignorant kids, like, oh, you're just a kid, I'm the adult, because they really do understand what's going on, right? Like I remember being in high school when the space shuttle blew up, right? Yeah. I was in high school. I mean, I don't remember much other than, oh, that was really sad. Like that's what I remember. It was weird. I'm like, what happened, right? But it wasn't, but other than that, I wouldn't have known that happened if the teacher didn't put the TV in front of me and say, oh, this is a historic moment. We're going to watch the space shuttle, right? Like, I think every teacher that day was like, oh my God, what did I just scarred these kids, right? Like,
Right.
But
right.
We want our kids to act like adults, but we treat them like children,
Right.
We have to hear them. They have a voice. We have to really listen to them. It doesn't mean they're right. And it doesn't mean that listening to them means like, well, we got to let them know, but they have a voice. You got to let them speak. So I think the more we engage them in high level thinking and emotional intelligence and teach them empathy and these types of things. And I mean, like I run these mastermind groups, right? It's like a 10-month program that meets twice a month. And I usually do 15 to 20 kids in the group. And a couple of the weeks, like it's a curriculum based thing, right? I have a different curriculum for each week, but some of the weeks I'll just say, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? Right. So I had kids come in one day. They just wanted to talk about like political division. I'm like, great, let's have a conversation. And I had kids in the room that were like on both sides, right? Very, very, and I basically said, so here's the deal. By the end of the session, you have an hour and a half to figure out a way to meet in the middle. You're not allowed to walk out of here feeling completely that you're on the left and you're completely on the right. You have to have a conversation, and I'm going to give you an hour and a half to figure it out. And I'm just going to sit here and listen and offer my 2 cents here and there. But this is and let me tell you something. These kids spent an hour and a half talking and discussing, and when they walked out of there, they had a whole different, like, I totally understand that perspective. Yeah, because you took the time to do it, versus just like it's easy to go to our, no, I don't agree with that. So some of those sessions can be like so powerful. Like that's what I love about teens, and that's the other thing. I think this was a question you asked me before. As adults, we're so set in our ways already. Teens are so malleable. They're like clay. Like they are open to learning. They have a thirst for knowledge. And if you just feed them the knowledge or give them information to work with, they will figure it out. Like they want to learn. And I think that's the thing. We gotta, obviously there's a difference between a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 16-year-old. But guess what?
Right.
I've seen some of those 7-year-olds, right? Like I'll be doing a workshop for like elementary school kids, and like this kid's asked me a question. I'm like, how old are you? Like I'm 7. I'm like, how are you? Right?
Like the middle school's down the block.
But
right?
they're out there, Like there's kids. They watch everything. It's like monkey see, monkey do. What we do is what they do, and it's like we have to be so careful, but we also have to open our minds to the fact that, hey, I know they're kids, and yes, we have more experience, and we have more. We failed more, and we certainly can save them a lot of trouble, and it's okay to. That's what we're supposed to do, but we also have to listen to them and hear them. And sometimes let them fail. Like you gotta, they have so much to say, and if you squelch it, right? Guess what happens? They don't tell you everything. Like my kids, they tell me everything, sometimes too much. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know everything about my kids because I've always had this open, like, this is an open, like, your opinion counts. Like, I'm not always going to agree with
Yeah.
you, but I'm going to allow you to share your opinion. And then I'm going to tell you why I
Oh,
disagree.
absolutely.
And you may just have to accept it because I am the parent, right? And I'm telling you no, but I'm not just saying no. I'm giving you a reason why I'm saying no. And I'm at least
Right.
hearing
Right.
why you feel it should be a yes. Like, but
Right.
they respect and appreciate that.
Well, it's funny you just said the word respect because there's also in my lack of experience as a parent, being a an 11-month veteran here, I foresee conversations. Not that I want to go down this route, but every once in a while, not having the time in the moment to say, okay, well, here's why I'm telling that you can't go outside and play today, is because we don't have. It's just I'm running around. No, the answer is no. And I think teaching them there is a level of respect that, like, is one thing to respect authority, but it's another thing to respect your parent, the person who's given you life on this planet. And I think that's so hard for a child, especially a teen, to grasp emotionally. They can grasp it maybe here
Mm-hmm.
intellectually, but to be able to really feel that and say, okay, I'm okay with that. When my dad says no, I'm not going to hound him as to why. It's never going to happen, 100% of the time. But I think there's that too. I mean, there's so many dynamics of whether it's you're the parent or the coach or the teacher. There's so many different just gray areas that there's, and scales that you work with kids on saying different things and doing different things that are sometimes always not ideal.
Yeah.
I think I do want to say, like, I'm very happy with what I've learned from you, Keith. Like actually talking with you today, I've learned a lot, and I think that we have a lot of work to do, and I'm so glad that I am glad that I decided to go down this road of working with, you know, talking about this next couple of episodes revolved around working with kids, because again, there's such a difference when you're trying to teach children certain skills that are they're the beginning of this process, right? Like, I can sit down and I do my gratitude section every day. How did I get to the spot in my life where I know that writing 3 things down I'm grateful for every day and consistently doing that every single day? There's a big, long journey there. And I think if we can coach children to get to that place and instill those types of, whether it be routines or habits in their lives, that's really important. To close out today, I just kind of want to touch a little bit on just routines, and if you see a place for kids developing routines while they're working through, for instance, something that's so not, or we think that we can't implement a routine revolved, say, around bullying. I'm a student I'm a 9th grade student, and I'm being bullied by a couple of juniors, and I want to deal with that in certain ways. Is there anything? Is there any tactical habits and or routines that we'd be able to work with this student on, or is it all mindset? Which, if it's all mindset, that's fantastic. I'm just curious if we have to wait to teach kids how to develop positive and proactive routines to deal with certain things until they're a certain age. I'm
Yeah.
curious what your
I mean,
thoughts are on that.
yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I guess for me, because I got bullied, right? I definitely think it's mindset. Only because,
Yeah,
look, the truth is, um, like, of course, from as a mindset coach and a leadership and empowerment coach, right? I'm all about do what you
yeah,
need to do. Don't worry about what people think, right? So there, but I also understand school culture, right? And if, like, you know,
right,
if you're the kid that's going to run to the guidance counselor and I'm being bullied, right? I mean, it's one thing if it's like merciful and it's you know, like really bad, but if it's like you're being
sure,
teased, you're not going to do that, right? So
right,
there's definitely mindset, right? I mean, it's definitely teaching teens to be like, listen, like, why, like I always say this with bullies, why is a bully a bully? Like, do you know why they're a bully? They're a bully because they feel like crap about themselves. So they're
right,
trying to make you feel like crap to make themselves feel better. That's it. It's
right,
black and white. That is it. That's why they're a bully, right? So
We might not know it.
Right. Exactly. But you know what? I mean, I'll never forget this. This is a great story. My kid was in school, and there was somebody that used to, and that's the one thing about my son. God bless him. He doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks. He doesn't. And
So the best situation you can
yeah, I
possibly
mean,
have
it's
as a
great.
parent.
It's very liberating to watch him sometimes. And I'll never forget. I want to say he was in 7th or 8th grade, maybe even younger. And they were in class, and this kid was constantly like pushing him and playing with his hair and bothering him during class. And he turned around one day and he just said to the kid, he goes, you've been doing this for like a month. He's like, do you feel that low about yourself that you have to just mess with my hair and pick on me? He goes,
Yeah.
because clearly you're doing this because you feel like crap about who you are. He said, so if you just want me to move, I'll just move. Kid started crying, right? They called my son down to the, what'd you say to him? What'd you say to him? My son's like, I told him he's a bully, and I just explained to him why he's a bully. And like this kid, that was it. Like this kid never, ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, he gave like a verbal thrashing. It was pretty funny. And when I got the call and he came home after, I'm like, what did you say? And he told me, I'm like, you know what?
Wow.
Good for you. Like I'm not mad, right? Like, but it's mindset, it's understanding, it's avoidance, right? Like just, don't associate with those people. Like if you.
Well, but that's why I asked, because sometimes that's so tricky, because if you have some type of, group of friends and you're really good friends with them, and then this guy is in this group, but sometimes these groups get together and sometimes it's hard to deal with that, and try to avoid that, because then I'm like avoiding everybody. Yeah.
He's been there.
Yeah, definitely. It's tricky. And that's why I'm so happy I brought you on, because there is so many nuances with working with children, and I'm really glad that you're able to shed some really great insight and light into how we are able to help and coach students become a better version of themselves, step into their own leadership, step into their own, empowering force that drives them into their adulthood, because that's, for many children, they never get that, and they walk through into adulthood still being a big kid. And that's, I think, a lot of times where we have these problems in the world, because we haven't done the work, and those people haven't done the work as students, and trying to go inward and see, what's happening here, why, and how do I change that? So,
and we're not trained.
Keith, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm going to ask you just a couple of things. If this is stolen directly from, if anybody watches the Tim Ferriss podcast, I just love this question. I think this is a really good question to ask anybody in any setting, or any interview setting. If the billboard question, if you had one message that you can put out to the entire world, or in this case, put out to every high school student, what would that one kind of message and sentence and or message be?
Wow. I think if I have to think about that,
not to put you on the spot.
No, I would want to tie that around like finding your tribe, maybe something to the point of like, your values will lead you to the right tribe.
That's awesome.
I
have I'm sorry.
No,
values.
Follow your values. Like if you live to your core values, right, and you can figure out what your core values are, and that's who you surround yourself with, right? Like, then it'll lead you to the right tribe, And like you said, sometimes there's groups of people. Some of them are your tribe, or some of them are not. And in those cases, you have the choice: do I want to stay here and ignore this other person, or am I going to realize like this over here as a tribe isn't my tribe, and like I'm going to form my own tribe? That's where the empowerment comes in, right?
Very, very cool. Keith, thank you so much again for jumping on the show today. I really enjoyed having you there, and it's been a long time since we actually chatted back in the restaurant days. If there is anywhere that you'd like people to find you, where would they go on the interwebs to find you?
My website is shiftyourpower.com. That's my website. I mean, I'm all as Keith Senzer. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on as Coach Keith S on Instagram, because Coach Keith was taken. So I'm on all those platforms. And then if they want to look into our non-for-profit, it's TSVF. It's the Sofia Balsamos Foundation. So tsvf.org. Also list all of our programs, what we do, our mission, and how we serve youth in the communities.
Awesome. Keith, thank you so much once again, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.